Hello Star Wars fans and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Jedi Council, but probably not in the way that you think. Today we're going to be discussing times that the Jedi Council defied their own code. Now it's been well documented that the Jedis were, guardians of peace in the Republic. But that political ideology came at a cost that unfortunately a lot of real life institutions have kind of fallen into. But let's get into this. The first one is they became generals in the Clone Wars. Now it's very famous that Mace Windu said, were keepers of the peace, were not soldiers. And that rang true as an adult going back and watching the sequels. That why would they all of a sudden jump from being, peacekeepers, mediators, almost lawyers in a way, to turning into this militant arm? I mean, it really goes against the whole Jedi code. When you're a soldier, there is no peace. When you're a soldier, it's all passion. It aligned them more with the Sith code than it did with the Jedi code. Another one is allowing Ki-Adi-Mundi to father children. Now, I didn't know about this until I started to actually research some of the topic here, but it was my understanding, and still is, that the Jedi didn't like attachment. And to allow a Jedi Council member, a master even, to not only father children, but to father multiple children. I mean, that screams hypocrisy in and of itself. Now, the justification for this, supposedly, was to save his species. But my question is wasn't there a way to extract his DNA? To, father children without him actually participating in the action? I mean, in real life we have that. So it just kind of begs the question. Was it something that they allowed initially? Or was it something he did and they just kind of went with it because he did it to begin with? Another one is allowing the Jedi Sentinels to learn the dark side. Now this one always kind of befuddled me, even before I started researching the topic. The Jedi Sentinels were more like rabid guard dogs than they were Shaolin temple priests. Now, in my mind, the Jedi Sentinels were these warrior monks chosen to guard the homestead. But the more I dug into what a Jedi Sentinel was, the more I saw that they were more akin to deep cover operatives than protectors of the temple. The fact that they learned how to sniff out dark side users because they knew how to use the dark side. They were taught traits like splicing and lockpicking, and many of them were given a particular region to kind of overwatch while intermingling with the populace. They didn't wear Jedi robes, except at the temple, which is why they wore those masks. You never knew which Jedi Sentinel it was. So the fact that they basically turned the Jedi Sentinels into these bloodthirsty guard dogs, just, it doesn't go with the motif. I can kind of understand the logic, but it just, I don't appreciate it. The next one is Obi-Wan Kenobi said, "Only Sith deal in absolutes." Well, I hate to break it to you, but the Jedi dealt in a lot of absolutes. Now, supposedly the Force is free flowing. It ebb and flows, and it's more like the oceans than it is something very structured. But every time I look at the Jedi Code and I look at how they interacted with their life, it was so structured and so absolute that it was scary. And I can see why so many Jedi broke away from it. I can understand why Ahsoka left. I can understand why Count Dooku became disenchanted. I can understand after being verbally abused by other Padawans, Anakin built up a resentment for the hypocrisy of the Jedi Order. I can see that. I can understand that. Too much rigidity in an organization is bad. Now, I understand doctrine doesn't need to change, but policies have to, given time. Another one is claiming Ahsoka was guilty of the bombing at the Jedi Temple when she didn't even commit it. Now, when the council was pressured by the Senate for answers as to how this could happen, because to the public, the Jedi were these infallible religious, elites. And I don't mean elites like in money. I mean elites as in they don't delve in the twisted nature of life. They're in the world, but they're separate from the world. And so all of a sudden there's a bombing at the temple. Now the Jedi Council can't say, oh hey, a Sith got in here. Because as I'm going to lead to the next one, the Jedi couldn't acknowledge that the Sith exist. So they had to blame Ahsoka, which was one of the reasons, not only that Ahsoka left, but that Anakin really got mad at the Jedi Council. And the last one is refusing to say it was a Sith that killed Qui-Gon. Now, I've read the prequel trilogy. I've watched the movies, and it never really dawned on me that the official story, the official press release of Qui-Gon was that he was killed by something other than a Sith Lord, or at least a Sith fighter. I always thought that that's what they told people. Well, it wasn't until recently I found out, no, that was not the official press release. The Jedi Temple did not want the world to know, or the galaxy, or the people, or whatever, know that the Sith were back. They were more scared of the potential of an uprising than they were about deciding to follow the truth. Now, don't get me wrong. The Jedi Council, they're mortals. I get that they're fake characters, but they're mortals, so they make mortal decisions. And we see the Jedi Council at its end, rather than its heyday. The High Republic, was more of the Jedi Council's heyday. And so, whenever we see it in the beginning, or episode 1, we see it at its decline, as opposed to it